line, ladies. I've just got to say, I really don't like it when some quote-unquote feminist or someone that doesn't identify as a feminist, but someone that thinks they can just spout off these opinions and people will agree with them. And to some extent, women do. We will agree with some people that, well, some other women that have these opinions, because sometimes you just don't want to be messed with. But I'm talking about the ones that continually make articles and speak about the fact that sometimes some men whistle at you when you go past. It's one of my pet hates. I really hate it when women say, oh, it's so sexist, they shouldn't do that, I hate it and all this, because most of the times the women saying that have never had it happen to them. So you've got to wonder whether it's jealousy or whether they are offended for somebody else. And depending on what that is, I don't really think that's your place to take on that responsibility to be a savior or to make yourself feel better, because you need to take advantage of the opportunity to virtue signal. If you're calling out genuine unfairness, I get that, but sometimes some people just want to be in the spotlight and virtue signal on behalf of somebody else that doesn't even have a problem. The majority of the time that I've seen, it's someone that's undesirable, that wants to get the jump on what you might think about them first, so they shut you down immediately or shut down the idea and the premise immediately that you would hit on them because they're not interested in you, when really is that the sad truth is they know you would never be interested in them. I think there are lines that you draw, like I was saying, lines, ladies. Where is your line? I guess my line would be if I was walking, say, by myself, and it was night and I had, I don't know, a group of 4 or 5 males behind me making sexual comments towards me that they meant, I would find that intimidating. I would find that intimidating if women did it to me. I think it's unnecessary and uncalled for. But if you're talking about broad daylight, you're in the business district going to work, there's a construction site, you walk past and a guy's like, hey love, how you going? It's funny, it brightens your day if you wave back or just go, yeah, shut up, or, it brightens everyone's day. It's just a bit of fun. I've never been a part of something like that where someone has genuinely said something sexualized towards me or whistled and then started walking down the street after me. Maybe it's just because I live in Australia and a lot of places we don't do that, I'm not sure. Maybe some places that have an abundance of newly immigrated people that don't follow our cultural rules, maybe it's because of that. I'm not sure where these people are speaking from, but for me, I don't have a problem with it. The level it's at where I live is fine, okay? When I see an overweight, dumpy, plain woman complain about being whistled at, aside from knowing that it's complete BS, it's like, lady, please don't speak on my behalf because I'm more than okay with it. I've grown up in a world where I can hold my own with my male counterparts, where I can get on with people, where I can give comebacks, and I'm not bitter. I don't struggle with my place in the world simply because somebody happened to whistle at me as I walked by. What I do have a problem with is that those trying to pass laws or float laws to be passed are trying to police the sounds that are coming out of your face. Now, there is a vast difference between a man walking down the street behind you saying these things to you, saying sexualized things, and actually posing a threat, whereas walking past a construction site where someone has to climb down 20 meters of scaffolding to even get on the same level of the street as you, meanwhile you're off in the distance, that's a completely different thing. And those two things should be separated at the very least. I don't like it how it's combined, and I don't like how they're throwing in pictures of deceased victims of crime to push this forward as well. Because like every single law they try to push through that's a bit iffy, they try and bring the emotional state in, and so that's why they're flashing up all these people. And it's sad and it sucks that they are deceased, but that didn't happen from someone just going. These things always have to be decided on a case-by-case basis. Did he whistle and then come after this person? Maybe that's part of a crime, but when it's just yelling out something like, hey, you're so good looking, I fail to see the problem with that. There are times where you don't want to be messed with, where you're just like, okay, everybody leave me alone. Just stop talking to me, I don't like this, and then maybe you'd yell something negative back, or maybe you'd go and write an article about misogyny because you're bitter and twisted and angry at something else. But just because a guy on a construction site whistles or says something to you doesn't mean you are going to be attacked. It doesn't mean that he's a terrible person. It doesn't mean any of those things. And I often think, out of all the horrible things happening in the world, you want to go after people that do this. There are far more things that you could be petitioning for or marching through the streets for. It is story time. So, my friend in high school was always a little bit older. She was born at the start of the year, so legally she was able to smoke first, drink first, go to clubs first, that kind of stuff. But one of the things was she was allowed to drive first, and she had her license before any of us. She had her mum's car, and she'd take us all around the place. We live in Australia, where it is hot as shit. People sometimes wear bikini tops to the grocery store. Men have just shorts on and no shirt, sometimes no shoes to go to the shops and the grocery store. There is a famous picture from behind of people in Australia voting, and they're all in bikinis and sarongs and shorts and thongs and everything. Thongs, by the way, meaning flip-flops. You guys call them flip-flops, I don't know why. Generally speaking, you can see a lot of skin here because of the weather. And I will tell you, there have been many a man that have copped two teenage girls in this city driving past. I'm like, beep, 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 beep. You're hot! Take it off! Woo! Okay? And you know what it meant? Absolutely nothing. We would have forgotten about that about 5 minutes after the interaction. Except we would have got a giggle out of it, the guy would have got a giggle out of it, just yelled something back or said, hey, give me a number, which, that had happened too a couple of times. And that was it. Just an interaction between a couple of human beings being silly. I do not think it should be illegal, or you should be given a caution or a charge or any sort of law enforcement backed issue of infringement for simply whistling at somebody. Sometimes it might not mean anything, and if it did mean something, that person was always going to do that crime whether or not they yelled out the warning sign before. Don't want to be one of those people that's asking you to sub and like, but if you feel like commenting or liking, that would help me out. It'll give me the power to do more of these episodes.